Hello and welcome to episode 68 of the NF Show. I'm your host this week, Evan Campbell, and with me, as always, is the ever lovely Noah Boxboy Ward.
That is not my name.
But it is this week because you're in the process of moving, so you're actually, even though it looks like you're just casually relaxing on your couch and everything, you're surrounded by boxes.
Not over at this part of the new apartment, but yes, there is definitely a mountain of boxes somewhere off screen. Literally a mountain of boxes, which I question that decision still. But I was able to whip something together over here, so this is where I'm going to sit tonight.
You look great. So
Thanks.
if anyone was wondering, that was part of the reason that we weren't here last week. So we're sorry we missed a week, but we're back here for a special episode, Turf Wars. And one of the big reasons it's special is because we have NF Magazine's editor-in-chief, Lucas Silence is Bliss Thomas.
I'm a kid now. I am a squid now.
Heck yeah, it's so great to have you back on the show, Lucas. And Noah's on the show with you. It's been a while since the three of us, this Triforce, has come together.
Yeah,
Right.
historically, there was, whenever Lucas was on, I was not on, which it's not because we were actually stun doubles for each other. It was just purely coincidental, I assure you.
That's right. Noah and I have a great respect for each other. We're going to
Yes.
gang up against some of Evan's opinions later in this episode, I'm sure.
Quite possibly.
Yeah. That's not what they were saying off screen. I had to wrangle them together, make sure that they did nice. But I'm glad to see you guys.
If I ever see your face again.
I'm glad to see you guys being professionals because that's what the NF show is all about.
Yes.
Professionalism.
Don't let the audience know what really goes on behind the scene, Evan. Smoke and mirrors, man.
Yes, and we have a lot going on. We're going to be talking about what went on behind the scenes with the newest issue of NF Magazine, as well as give our thoughts about the Nintendo Micro Direct that just kind of popped up this morning. We're also going to talk about the awesome Nintendo Humble Bundle, and finally, the main portion of the show is going to be about Splatoon, the huge Nintendo online shooter that just splashed down on Wii U, and then finally, as always, we'll wrap up the show with a nice bow with your fantastic feedback. But first, let's start with some really exciting news, is that issue 15 of NF Magazine is now available. You can buy it digitally, you can buy it through the mail. It is on its way to subscribers. I'm sure some lucky people have already gotten it. It comes with a double-sided Splatoon poster. So I haven't gotten my copy yet. I'm kind of waiting for that. But Lucas, this is just a jam-packed episode or issue.
Yes, we're right there in the in-between time where the issues have been mailed out, sent out from Idaho, and we're just waiting for them to show up in our mailboxes. I've got this gigantic freight shipment that comes to the main office every time, and it shows up and gets offloaded from this giant truck. It's very exciting. But yes, the issue number 15 is done. It is the second issue that is part of this subscription year that was funded through our most recent Kickstarter. It's got Splatoon on the cover, and it's got Splatoon everywhere on the inside of the pages. We kind of took the creative idea that the Inklings are having their turf wars, and it wasn't quite contained on the cover art itself. So ink is splashed everywhere inside. You'll be turning on random pages. There's like a review of Donkey Kong Country games, and it's just got a splash of blue ink on it for no reason whatsoever. Just because the Inklings have no regard for the content you're trying to read. It doesn't actually cover up anything important. But
It covers up the words and the score.
Lucas covered up all of my writings in the issue with just splotches of ink. Like, nobody cares, Evan. Nobody cares.
Anything negative about Splatoon in the issue, splash, ink went right over top of that. So yeah, I'm excited about it. The poster is really cool this time. The official art is on one side, the same art that you'd get on the Splatoon box art. So you'll have that really big to put on your wall if you want. If you choose the other side, you're going to get this really cool new poster illustration from Thor, where it takes the idea that all the characters in Splatoon are different kinds of like aquatic marine life. And so you've got the Inkling girl front and center, and then she's surrounded by all the different like fish and underwater characters from Nintendo history. You know, you've got Mario in a frog suit. You've got all these different water Pokemon. You've got the weird shark boss guy from Beautiful Joe. Like, Thor does great work in just taking hundreds of characters and cramming them into the same scene for really cool poster illustrations, and he's done it again. So when you guys get that issue in the mail and you get that double-sided poster out, you're going to be hard-pressed deciding which of the two sides to put up on your wall.
Yeah, definitely. If you're wondering how awesome those posters are and you're watching the video version of the NF show, over Lucas's left shoulder you can see 3 of the cool posters, just perfect sizes to post up on your wall. Also, great modeling there. You're going to have to, if you're just listening to this, you need to watch, because Lucas just put on a class act show. Have you ever been on The Price is Right?
I have some more visual aids later, too. I've got them pre-planned in front of my desk here.
Ooh, fancy.
Nice tease. Nice tease. Awesome. Well, remember, issue 15's out now. You can still get a subscription for year 3 of NF Magazine, or you can just pick up a single issue. Go over to nfmagazine.com and check out all of the Splatoon goodness. And you can also, if you just want to get a little taste, Lucas has been kind enough to post his entire Splatoon review over on nfmagazine.com too. You can see what he thinks about the game, and then we'll discuss it a little later on, but you're going to have to wait because there's so much else to talk about. Nintendo is bringing the goodness early. They surprised us this morning with a micro direct. We knew some things went on in Japan over the weekend, but Nintendo of America decided to give us some info about a new Chibi-Robo game, a new Dr. Mario coming to 3DS, and then something that's been hinted at for a while, Bravely Second will be coming to the West. And this was just great handheld news.
Absolutely. I'm surprised. I'm shocked and surprised that a Nintendo Direct happened this close to E3. You'd think that, you know, we're only a couple of weeks away from E3. These are announcements that could have just waited and been part of that big digital event 2 weeks from now. So I'm even more excited from E3 because they felt that their volume of announcements planned for E3 was already so strong that they could take these ones out and make them into a separate direct. Like, who knows what in the world we're going to get at Los Angeles. But today's announcements alone were enough to get me hyped.
Yeah, if there was one that I was kind of iffy about, it was another Olympics game. Now, I know that there are fans of the Mario and Sonic Olympic Games titles, and Nintendo keeps making them, but that's one that I am glad was saved for a moment outside of E3 and not to get a ton of coverage, because I want to see even more new stuff, not another licensed sequel.
It just seems like you're glad they farted it out before E3, so you didn't have to deal with it. You'd probably put it more eloquently, but in my mind, that's what, as you were talking, all I could think of. I'm curious what you guys think about Chibi-Robo. I have zero experience. I remember it was the GameCube. That was kind of a later year GameCube title that came over, and the GameCube later years were a really rough patch for Nintendo fans on that platform. I remember being excited because it was one of the few games, but just didn't end up getting it. But we've seen other games since then. Even Chibi-Robo Photo Finder, I think, was the latest one for 3DS. But I have zero experience. This game is going to be a retail release, which I think will be the first one in a while, because there was a DS game that was a Walmart exclusive. But not only is it going to be a retail release, it's going to come packaged with a Chibi-Robo amiibo.
Yeah, I have to say that amiibo looks so cute, and they built-in functionality that is kind of compelling and makes it seem like, oh, I'm actually getting something besides cuteness out of this little figurine. And it's kind of interesting to see Chibi-Robo, again, like you, Evan. I don't have as much experience with the previous titles, but this looks like the most traditionally designed Chibi-Robo game in a while, and that it harkens back to old-school platforming games, and it's kind of a puzzle platformer, which for me I think looks great. The first thing I thought when I read the description that it was going to involve whip action is it made me think of Castlevania. You know, granted it is not just like Castlevania, but to be able to, when I watched the video, it felt like Castlevania mixed with Bionic Commando, mixed with some puzzling elements. But regardless, all of it together looks pretty charming, and maybe this will be my first entry into the Chibi-Robo world.
Yeah, the Chibi-Robo amiibo is just too perfect. It might be actual size for the character.
Yeah, that's true.
And so I've seen people tweeting about it throughout the day that they want to own the Chibi-Robo amiibo just so that they can have it sitting there, a little actual size Chibi-Robo guy. And yeah, it may be that they wanted to make the Chibi-Robo amiibo into a thing just because it would, work on a scale ratio and would be a cool thing. And then they're like, maybe we need to make a game to go along with it. Maybe the game would have been like an eShop only title otherwise, except that there was the amiibo that they could bundle it with. So it has been elevated to retail status because of that. But we'll see.
And who knows, maybe with Chibi-Robo being a little bit more combat-oriented in this case, this could be a preface to him joining the Smash Brothers roster as a later piece of DLC, and then you could use the amiibo for that too.
That's a really good point, Noah. That makes a lot of sense. And I agree with you. The side-scrolling kind of adventure piques my interest. Not that we're at all for a shortage of those type of games from Nintendo, but it's kind of cool to see Chibi-Robo get placed in his own side-scroller and see how that plays different to Nintendo's other mascots. So that's really cool. I'm also pretty excited about Dr. Mario, but I bet I am in the minority of when I heard it was announced, hoping that it was free to play like Pokemon Shuffle.
I thought that a number of games, I kept waiting for each one that was announced within reason. Is this a free-to-play game? Is this a free-to-play game? But what I will say about Dr. Mario is this is probably the first iteration of Dr. Mario since the original that I'm actually interested in. Granted, it still looks like it has the exact same graphics from when I first played it on the NES years ago, but I love the additional functionality that the Miracle Cure pills add both in the single player and the multiplayer mode. And there's a match 3 mode, and then there's downloadable play, so it seems like a really nice, robust, and truly updated version of the game that doesn't have something as shallow as I think some of the previous ones have had.
Yep. I'm a huge Dr. Mario fan. Dr. Mario NES version I played competitively with my dad years and years ago.
Nice.
That's cool.
And ever since then, every new version that comes out of Dr. Mario, my dad and I play it against each other together. And it's
cool.
It's one of my favorite parts of being a Nintendo fan is that I get to share that experience with my dad. So every time a new Dr. Mario game comes out, I'm like, yes, Nintendo is not leaving this franchise to die. Like they're regularly updating it, and it's never been a graphical showcase by any stretch of the imagination. But I do like that they keep adding new modes and tweaks, and they've got Dr. Luigi as back now as part of this, and yeah, it looks like you said, the most robust Dr. Mario they've made so far, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and did you guys see the Dr. Mario amiibo for Smash Brothers?
Yes.
Yeah.
By golly, that is Father's Day gift for my dad. I pre-order for it at least.
That's a good looking amiibo. I like playing as Dr. Mario in Smash Brothers, but I'm kind of paused a little bit on my amiibo collecting, but I saw that one was like, some of them transition so well to the amiibo figurines, and that's one that I was like, man, that looks awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really cool. Nintendo, I feel like, is just on this hit streak right now with puzzle games on the 3DS, which I'm loving. I mean, I really like Pokemon Shuffle. I know that can be divisive, but then you've got the Puzzles and Dragons Z plus Puzzles and Dragons Super Mario Edition, Stretchmo. Now we have Dr. Mario around the corner. It's just great to see kind of all of these games coming out this year and everything. But the game that probably people are really excited about that sadly isn't coming out this year is Bravely Second Endlayer.
Which isn't a surprise considering that it's localized. It has a lot of translation to occur, but I am glad to see that it is coming out nevertheless. Because I think for a while, even the first one went through a time period where there was uncertainty if it actually would be sold outside of Japan, and it was definitely a treat when it did, regardless of some of the faults and the complaints people had about the game in terms of grinding near the end of it and repeating through certain experiences. a lot of people that I talked to that played it still really liked it a lot. And I'm hoping that the sequel addresses some of the complaints that people had with the first one.
Yeah, did you play the first one, Lucas?
I I didn't play it myself. I played a little bit of the demo. It's not an occasion of a game that I didn't actively have an interest in playing. Just one of those that I knew it was going to be a long, involved
Yeah.
RPG. At the time when it came out, I just didn't have the time in my life to be able to get into it. But I like Bravely Default has gone back and brought back like the really old school, like hardcore, we're not holding your hand kind of RPG flair that Square Enix had in the earliest Final Fantasies. That was part of issue number 15 of NF Magazine, actually, is that we're at the 25th anniversary of the release of Final Fantasy on the NES right now.
Wow.
It happened back in summer of 1990. If you go back to those Nintendo Power issues, they were pushing Final Fantasy hard.
Yeah.
So we had Tegan, who is our teenage correspondent. He writes a column called "It's New to Me," where he only plays games that were released before he was born, for the most part. So I had him play the 25-year-old original Final Fantasy on NES, and he got most of the way through it. It took him like a month, and he played every day, multiple hours a day. But these hardcore old school RPGs, you'd think they were left in the past, but games like Bravely Default have brought them back, and people liked it enough that here comes the sequel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like you, Lucas. It just came at a time where it wasn't possible for me to play, and I have a backlog enough as it is with 3DS. But it's a really pretty looking game, and it's cool that Nintendo's publishing this. And this was a game that I believe released in February, did really well for Nintendo sales wise, and I'm guessing we're going to see this game once again, kind of that February time slot, which it's cold outside. It's a great time to bundle up with an RPG and keep yourself warm. So it's really cool to see. We've got a lot of good stuff coming in 2016. Noah and I have talked about in the past worrying about how much shelf life is left for the 3DS, but we now know that Fire Emblem If and the Bravely Second are coming next year, let alone what else could possibly come. So that's really exciting to see. Now, a game that wasn't announced in the North American Nintendo Direct, but was now announced in Japan over the weekend, we have to comment on because it comes from one of my favorite franchises, Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter Cross was announced for 3DS, coming out this year in Japan, hopefully next year in North America and Europe. Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate has done very well just on 3DS for Capcom and Nintendo, so I believe that we will see it, and it's just really cool. There's like special moves now for hunters to take on the monsters. There's new monsters, and then they're adding more personalization to the game. Seems to be one of the key themes. Not only can you pick your weapon, one of the 14 different weapons in the Monster Hunter universe, but you can also pick your hunter's playing style. So I don't know if they've announced the 4 different ones, but I think there's going to be something like more action, aggressive oriented, or defensive or anything. So it's going to add even more twist to how you can play this already jam-packed game, and that is super exciting for me.
Yep, Monster Hunter Cross looks great. We previously got the announcement of Monster Hunter Stories that you wrote about for the most recent issue, the kind of more youthful, like cel-shaded looking game that they've been working on for lots of years. And then there was another Monster Hunter game that was just announced, the Animal Crossing-like kind of game where it's a village full of felines. Did you read about that?
Yeah, and I can't remember if this was a PSP game or a phone game. It's sort of a enhanced port that looks really goofy, and I'm sure Monster Hunter is also a pretty humorous game. It loves its puns and everything, so I'm sure that game is overflowing with it. But yeah, it's like Poka Poka Village DX, or it's a crazy name.
Just goes to show how much Capcom understands their fan culture for Monster Hunter that they have created, and they're bringing out the new core installment here in Monster Hunter Cross, and then they're also branching out into these other quirky, more humorous uh, genres to build the brand even further. And I know Evan is a huge Monster Hunter fan, so it's just got to be great to see a franchise that you're so invested in doing so well and growing even larger and reaching more people who
It's
perhaps not know it yet.
Yeah, well, it's doing. It seems like it's growing more popular in the West, which is really cool because it's just such an awesome experience. That an online co-op game, nonetheless, for a handheld and everything, and just so much fun. I've spent many years trying to convince Noah to join on board, but I don't think it'll ever happen. I think if everyone thinks Box Boy's tough to get him to play, goodness gracious, trying to get him on the Monster Hunter bandwagon. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what I hope we're going to see Monster Hunter Stories and Monster Hunter Cross. Those could be two more big 3DS games coming next year, which has me excited for the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
Before we move on, though, there was another game. The only big kind of Wii U title they talked about was Project Treasure, which was hinted at back in February. And it's from Namco Bandai, and it's coming out. I don't think they have a release date, but they showed a new teaser trailer. And this is a free-to-play game. We were talking about free-to-play for 3DS. This is a free-to-play Wii U game that looks to be a 4-player online co-op title. And I'm sure you might be battling against each other, but we got our first look, and it looks like you're battling against zombies.
Yeah, it kind of had a special. It looked like each character was taking on a specialized role, potentially, as they went through a dungeon together to get treasure, and then bagging up that treasure, and then trying to get back out, avoiding booby traps and fighting monsters. And I was pretty impressed because we only got just a title screen and then a worded a text description of what the game was about. And after not hearing anything for months, it wouldn't be unreasonable to think, well, what happened to that? Has that been forgotten or shelved?
Yeah.
And so seeing some progress done was pretty exciting. And conceptually, what we saw of the gameplay, it looks pretty cool. I would definitely give it a try, especially with it being free to play. That's the lowest barrier to entry possible.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I'll be curious to see how the free to play is. Do you have to buy the extra characters, Noah? Is it rotating? Are you stuck with, like, is it randomized who you get, so not everyone's playing online as the same character together and everything? I'm really curious to see how that all works out, and it's just exciting to see this third party Bandai Namco or Namco Bandai come out with this really cool looking game. So that'll be something that I'm curious. I think that we may see more of that at E3, even though they announced it at this Micro Direct. One last thing I wanted to touch on here is, does this have you all concerned that 3DS is going to kind of take a back seat at E3, that they were getting some of the big 3DS news out of the way, or do you think there's going to be even more big name games that they're holding on to for the event?
I'd say that Wii U will probably have more of the focus at E3. Though they'll have a surprise or two. You know, last year the big surprise that they held back for the Wednesday standalone press event was codenamed Steam. So they usually like to have a 3DS trump card that they throw in at the end there. And I would expect that we'll get the next big Pokemon game announcement, and that's almost certainly going to be on 3DS. So yeah, there'll be some 3DS, probably mostly Wii U this time around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there might be one surprise 3DS title, but we'll save all that for next week, right, Evan?
Yeah, we do have our prediction show. We've been teasing that for a while. That will be coming next week. And then the week after that is freaking E3. It's crazy to believe here in just a couple of weeks. But yeah, you'll be able to read all of our crazy predictions and everything. So that's going to be super, super exciting. But what you can get right now is the Nintendo Humble Bundle. And this is really awesome. Yeah. Nintendo has partnered up with the Humble Bundle, and if you're unfamiliar with that concept, it's basically every 2 weeks they have a collection of games that you can pay any price for, and then you can decide, do you want that money to go to developers or to a charity that kind of the charity has worked with whoever's presenting the Humble Bundle. Well, Nintendo is the first console maker, yes, the first console maker. Sony and Microsoft haven't done this, to team up with Humble Bundle to offer handheld and home console games. And they're working with the charity code.org that helps people learn how to code, especially in low poverty areas, and makes it accessible to anyone. So this is just came out of nowhere. Super awesome. If you haven't checked it out now, I would tell you to pause the show and go to humblebundle.com right now, because not only is it a good cause, not only is it just a really cool thing that Nintendo of America is doing, and sadly for people in Europe or anywhere else, it's only available in the Americas. Hopefully it'll be global next time. But you can pay $1 and get Mighty Switch Force on 3DS, Woe Dave on 3DS, and Guacamelee on Wii U, or you can pay more than the average of what everyone's paying, and there have been about 50,000 plus bundles sold right now. You can pay, and the average I believe is like $9.25, and along with those games, you can get The Fall on Wii U, which is a fantastic game, Ollie Ollie on 3DS and Wii U. You get both codes, and Moon Chronicles, the first chapter on 3DS, plus more games to be announced later. And then to make this even better, which is crazy, if you just pay $10, not only do you get all of those games, you also get Stealth Incorporated 2 on Wii U, plus Steam World Dig on 3DS and Wii U.
It's just incredible. Some of my favorite independent games from the last couple of years are included in the bundle. And then there's other ones that I still want to try, like The Fall, that this is just, it was too hard. It was too hard to pass up on this. So I totally jumped on board, did the more than $10, and got the whole slew of them. I'm really excited to try some of these. So it's excellent, and I hope a lot of people out there have been able to jump on the bundle as well, especially since we're waiting for even more games to be announced.
Yep, I was the same way. That was an instant click, instant buy for me. I've never done Humble Bundle before because it's only ever been PC stuff, and but this one, man, it is quite literally the best value ever for Nintendo downloadables.
Yeah.
The best deal, the best promotion that they've ever had, and I wanted to support it with my dollars right out of the gate, because I'm hoping that this is just the first of many, that this is something that happens several more times throughout the months and years ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I as someone who has in the past on this show and publicly given the Nintendo eShop time, I've criticized for some of the deals they do, just the way they go about stuff and presenting stuff. Just a fantastic job by Nintendo of America here and the whole eShop team. They have just gone above and beyond, not only to beat the competition and do something so forward-thinking, but to help such a cool charity, and the fact that they're offering such a great collection of indie games. Because it could have been something, and I hope that this happens in the future, don't get me wrong, Nintendo could have done old first-party games or something and kept it all about them. But they decided to go out and bring in all of these indie developers and offer just such an assortment of games and everything. I just applaud them. I think it's fantastic. I haven't pulled the trigger yet, but I will, and I'll let you know that there will be at least one of the codes that I get on the show next week, and then on my Twitter, I'll be also giving out games because I already own a few of these. I'll probably hold The Fall for the NF show next week. So if you've been looking to get that adventure game, you can look forward to trying to get that next week and everything. But I just have nothing but praise to say this. It's so cool. I can't imagine what other awesome games they're going to bring. And then the fact that some of them you get the 3DS and Wii U code is just so cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's very cool.
So it's really exciting. Fingers crossed for more Humble Bundles. Although I said the first party thing, I would love to see. Well, can you imagine if they did a first party Humble Bundle in the future?
Incredible.
Like
that would be spectacular. I'd love to see a virtual console bundle.
Oh,
Humble Bundle, get the whole Mega Man NES collection. Humble Bundle, get all of the old school Marios together, like make your own
30th anniversary. They have to do it for Mario's 30. Like, can you imagine?
That would be great.
Like, yeah, they like that. Oh man, I mean, we'll see if they do that, but yeah, they could do so many cool things in the future.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just I would love the idea of first party, but given I remember back in the Game Boy Advance days when they were repackaging and selling for $30 a single NES Mario game, and that just felt like such a ripoff. After just years before on a previous system on the Super Nintendo, they'd bundled all of those together and sold them for a single game price. It's just if Nintendo gets that generous with its own content, that will be a true sea change moment where we'll think, wow, Nintendo's really changed to be this generous with their own content. Fingers crossed. I think that would be awesome, but I'm a little skeptical.
Yeah. Well, who would have ever thought Nintendo would be the first console maker to do the first home
True.
console and handheld bundle? Once again, just to applaud them and everything. We hope to see more of it. And if you haven't checked it out, check it out. I mean, for $1, folks, you can pick up 3 awesome indie games.
Yeah.
I don't know why you wouldn't. And you can put that all towards developers or put that towards a charity. I guess I would just push, if you have the means, give more money to both the developers and charities for bundling all of these awesome games. It's a really cool thing. So that brings us to our main event, gentlemen. Splatoon time.
Yeah.
And Lucas was the one who authored the review for NF Magazine, awarding the game, drum roll please, 9.5, calling it incredible.
Because that game is full of puns, and what better thing to do than use puns when reviewing it?
Heck yeah. And he's generous enough. There is a new mode and map and weapon available that just went live at this recording. So he decided to, you know what, push that, wait until later to play that, which I know is killing him, and decided to talk with Noah and I instead.
No kidding.
That's right.
So-
As we speak, Nintendo has just added the Splat Zones ranked battles. Ranked battles are open, so if you have gotten to level 10 or higher, you can now join and compete in Splat Zones, which is a totally different game type with a totally different feel than Turf War. It's really great, and you just get splatted. You get killed over and over again, and it's totally awesome. And they've added an all-new map, Port Mackerel, which is very, from what we've seen of it, I haven't played it yet. I'm here talking with you guys. So, but from the preview look that they gave us in the Nintendo Direct Micro that's more than, it's a very boxy, very corridored, very close quarters kind of map, a totally different feel than any of the other 5 that are already active in the game. And then they added, if you're watching the video version, the NES Zapper.
Yeah.
Now what I'm holding up is the orange version, and the version that they added to the game tonight is actually the gray version. I have the gray version too. It's in a box somewhere, but handy and useful for a visual aid, I had the orange version.
Awesome.
The orange version will be added later, and they're actually treating them as separate guns, which is doubly cool. But can you hear that? That just such a satisfying click action noise that the NES Zapper had. So that it warms my old school heart that they have added the Zapper, and makes me love the game even more than I already did, which is you can read my review on nfmagazine.com or in issue number 15.
Definitely.
Yeah, you're just floored by Splatoon, the Wii U exclusive third-person shooter. Really cool to see your thoughts, and I don't know what you think, but I think it's hard to argue that Nintendo has just really freshened up the shooter space with online shooters here. It's just such a fun experience at the base level, and this idea that you are fighting against the other team, but it's really more you're dealing with the environment surrounding you.
Mm-hmm. I really think that's pretty brilliant. Something that I thought about while I was playing the game was my dad, who, if you've been listening to me podcast for years, you would know that he is also a major hardcore gamer, but his only favorite type of game that he has is first-person shooters, and he plays Call of Duty multiplayer deathmatch, not team deathmatch, because he has to play solo. Doesn't like playing in teams, I guess.
He's a maverick.
And his first few years that he played, because he's been doing this for probably like 7 years, I don't know, since Call of Duty Modern Warfare. I think the first Modern Warfare he's been doing this. But he was a big camper. He would love to go through the maps, then find a place to hide out that's high traffic from nearby, and then just take people out. And the things that people shouted at him, your voice, Chad, are hilarious. And the funny thing is he'll never have the headset on, but he'll just sit there and giggle at all the horrible insults that are hurled at him as he takes his pot shots and takes them out. And I was thinking, as I'm playing this, I would love for my dad to play this, but I don't know if he'd really like it because he's such a camper. And this game is not about camping at all. It's the antithesis of camping. At least the Turf Wars is, because you have to run around constantly and paint areas that aren't painted or cover up paint from the opposite team. Now, he's gotten better at his run and gun gameplay, so maybe he could handle it. But for now, for me, I love it. I'm not much of a camper, and I love being able to have to go and run around the environment and still sneak up on people and get them, but also I'm accomplishing something else. And my initial experience, I've only been able to play it for an hour. I just got my Wii U set back up shortly before the show started, is that just playing the game as I think it should be played, looking for the environment and trying to paint things, it ended up making me ranked first in my team almost every single game. Mm-hmm. And then they started matchmaking me with people that were level 20, and I'm like, I'm level 4. So then they started outranking me, but I just love that. I love the meta of the game, and as soon as I could get the roller, that's what I got, because that's what I played exclusively in the global test fail a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, camping isn't rewarded too much in the Turf Wars mode because victory is determined by how much ground you cover in your ink. So if you sit in one spot just taking pot shots at people, you're not contributing much to your team.
Yeah.
But in Splat Zones that has just opened up, camping is very much rewarded because there is just a small little rectangle in the middle of the map that you have to defend. So you can absolutely get yourself up on a nice perch, hide yourself, tuck away behind a corner somewhere, and just splat people as they come run into that same central area again and again. So your dad, you may very well like to take a look at that. Once you get yourself leveled up past level 10, give him a turn at the controller on that one. He'll probably enjoy himself quite a bit.
I totally will.
I was wondering if you noticed this, Noah and Lucas. One of the things that I found very fascinating about Splatoon is, yes, there is a single-player game, but it's literally hidden from the main screen, the main hub area. They basically want you to play. I mean, even in the directions that you get, it's like get in the lobby and go online. This game is obviously all directed about the online battles, and it's the single players like your cake and get to eat it too or whatever. And I can't think of another Nintendo game that treats it like that. I mean, Mario Kart and Smash Brothers both have big online communities and online, but Splatoon, it's just front and center. It is the main thing that you're going to do, and everything that the hub world revolves around is actually the online. And even though I knew that like they've been marketing the online and everything, it still was a little of a shock for me because I'm just not used to Nintendo doing this.
And it's kind of refreshing, frankly. Maybe it's a sign of things to come. I'm hopeful that at E3 maybe we'll see another game about that. Maybe they're going to surprise us with something related to it on the 3DS. Or maybe in the future we'll see something more in this vein on their mobile games, which we have to wait a bit longer to see.
Yeah, and so I've played now for a few hours, and I think Lucas has cringed every time I've tweeted about the game because I have been a little more critical, I would say. We were talking about the modes and stuff, and I, for one, just Nintendo's doing a rollout program that is so much a marketing ploy. It's for me, people are like, oh, let's get up the ranked battle. This meter's filling out. And then today they're like, at 10 o'clock, all this stuff's going to hit. And it's like, there's no meter going up. They were waiting to put ranked battle out until Monday. And Cynical Evan said they only had one mode during the first weekend because they were worried about the servers and it crashing. But once again, applaud Nintendo. It's been a smooth launch. No, I brought up the global test fail, but the launch has been nothing but smooth. Once again, awesome thing. But as someone who has played many shooters throughout the years and everything, after an hour, and I'm still having a blast, and I've gone back to it. It's not like I put the game down. I was just like, you know what? I would really like to play a different mode than Turf Wars. I could really use a little variety. And on top of that, they limit it to 2 maps per day. So there's going to be 6 maps now, but there's only 5 for the opening weekend, which I think is super small selection of maps. But then they limit it to 2, and if you play for more than, I'd say, 20 to 30 minutes, you want to see something new. Not only do I want to play something a little different, but I'd like to see something new.
I actually ran into that too. From what I understand, though, the maps change every 4 hours, not once a day, just
is
all
it?
day.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's right on the hour. It happens when it's supposed to happen. It can happen in the middle of waiting in a lobby to start a game. All of a sudden, whoop, you're out. We got to announce that the maps are changing. But at any rate, I ran into that just in my 45 minutes of playing before the show, in that there were 2 maps, and it was the mall and the skate park. And I started out with the little machine gun at first, and I'm like, oh, I've got to level up and get my roller. I need my roller. And then I finally did get the roller, but I got bummed out because out of the 10 games I probably played, 8 of them were all the same map, which seemed to be the luck of the draw. And it was not the map, it was the skate park map, which is not really good with the roller because there's lots of curved, sloped surfaces. Mm-hmm. The roller's better on flat surfaces. And it was just really starting to frustrate me. And something else that makes it weird is there's definitely a distinct advantage to having a balanced team, in my opinion, and you have no idea what your teammates are going to pop up with. And so sure enough, my first game with my roller that I worked so hard to earn had 3 rollers, and I thought, man, we are doomed to fail because we aren't balanced in terms of our loadout, and you can't change it at any rate either. Miraculously, that game we did win. We won by 0.2%, which was a real shock to me. Probably one of the closest wins that I'll ever have in that game, unless I get a 0.1. But there's definitely some sketchy stuff about that in terms of weapon selection.
I have here my handwritten list of notes so that
defenses.
Rep one by one the criticisms that Evan has made vocal about Splatoon on Twitter and personally to me, and in the entire past year of NF Show episodes since Splatoon was revealed and the complaints about voice chat began. Item number 1. I think, first of all, let me say that I think all of Evan's views and all of Evan's criticisms are entirely valid.
Oh, I was really hoping you said absolutely wrong.
I want to validate your opinions first of all, because you're right that the game would be better if voice chat were included as an option that people could pick. It would probably have made a better impact if more maps and modes were available from the beginning. But let's start with the voice chat.
Uh-oh. I haven't brought it up, by the way, so...
It's your favorite topic, Kevin.
You haven't brought it up in this episode. You brought it up in 90% of the past episodes recorded in the past year. I listen to the weekly voice chat rant from Evan as I'm doing my work assembling magazine pages. I'm like, how many minutes into the episode is it going to be this time? Splatoon gets called out for lack of voice chat.
I was just surprised as well. For the record, sometimes it wasn't even the notes, and then I thought, Evan's not going to talk about it, and he did. It'll come up sometime.
I'm passionate. What can I say?
So, all right, so voice chat being a part of Splatoon makes sense for me, but not yet. Not with the game as they've rolled it out to begin with, just because of how matchmaking works here at the beginning. And that you play these matches for 3 minutes, and then the team is auto-shuffled, and you have a completely different group of people altogether. And so if voice chat were a part of the equation right now, you would be introducing yourself to new people every 3 minutes. Like, hey, I'm Noah. I use the roller. I'm gonna try to get territory over here. Oh crap! The match is starting. Like and that would be a headache. One.
Yeah.
And two, I got the retail copy a couple of days earlier, and so when I started playing on the public servers, the only other people that were playing were people in Japan. So if voice, and even still, I'll play and regularly get matched up with players that are Japanese or players from Europe that are from countries that don't speak English. So if voice chat were part of the mix now, it would be useless to have it turned on. I wouldn't be able to communicate them anyway. We don't speak the same language. So voice chat being added to Splatoon for me is a valid criticism, but not yet. It should be something, a feature that would be added whenever they add friend teams, friend matchmaking, which is something that they've talked about for August. When the August update comes out, you're going to be able to assemble a team of players that are on your friends list and play with that same group multiple matches again and again. You're not going to get random strangers thrown into the mix.
I can't wait for that.
Then if voice chat is not added, that's when it becomes a really valid complaint to me, because these are people that you know. You don't have to introduce yourself every 3 minutes. You're all speaking the same language. Then voice chat would be a really cool addition. And especially when they have modes like tower control that are added that are going to be a little bit more specific, where one person is going to need to be called out to be the person that's sitting on top of the tower, while the other three are the support units on the ground. Right now with Turf Wars and with Splat Zones, the strategy is pretty much defined. You see something that isn't your color, you go and make it your color. You see the rectangle in the middle of the map in Splat Zones. You go and you blast people that are trying to get it that aren't on your team. So the strategy is pretty straightforward. Voice chat isn't a huge loss there, but when they get more involved modes like tower control, it could be a good addition. So those are my thoughts on voice chat. Hopefully that is received well from Evan, who's the world's #1 Splatoon should have voice chat proponent.
Oh, that's the nicest compliment I've ever gotten. I love the #1 Splatoon voice chat proponent. Yeah, I'll take that.
Item 2. the new maps and modes, which is the most recent thing that we had a Twitter exchange about just a couple of days ago, and I thought it was just wonderfully poetic that we were sitting down to start recording this episode at the exact time that Nintendo activated a new map and a new mode for Splatoon, which shores up my argument. I think that overall, and this is getting beyond Splatoon now, I think that the gaming industry has developed this problem of impatience, where we want to have a new game, and especially guys like us that are reviewers and playing these games, we get these new games, we play them on day one, we want to absorb the full experience, be done with the game, and move on. If that happened with Splatoon, the multiplayer community would dry up and die in 2 weeks, and then the game would just be done. And we've seen that happen with games on PlayStation and Xbox. Like, nobody plays Titanfall anymore. Titanfall, people jumped on that game, they played it for a couple of weeks, they were done with it, they tossed it aside. If you try to play Titanfall now, it's much more difficult to get together with a good team than it was right in that small window of a couple of weeks right around its launch date. Nintendo has seen these problems that other shooter games have had, and they have deliberately allowed themselves to take a knock in some of the review scores and some people's opinions of the game here at the beginning, because they are not playing the short-term game. They're playing the long game. they've got Splatfest events that they're going to be rolling out. It's going to happen, once a month or once every couple of months. They're going to be trickling out new maps and modes over time. And this is just Nintendo's new strategy. We've seen them building toward this with things like the Mario Kart 8 DLC packs, where people played Mario Kart 8 and they got through all of the races, they played all the multiplayer they wanted to, they set the game aside. But then the first DLC pack came out, and a lot of people were motivated to get on and play again. The second DLC pack came out months later. People are playing it again. So they're taking the same strategy of trying to give longer legs to this game, and it's absolutely crucial with Splatoon. Splatoon, you can't play against CPU players. You've got to have enough players that are online and searching for a match at the same time to be able to play it. So Nintendo is rolling out new weapons, new modes, new maps slowly over time so that people constantly are coming back to Splatoon. 2 weeks from now, they're going to be coming back to play the first Splatfest or 3 weeks from now. June 20th is the first Splatfest. People that have set aside Splatoon, after playing it during the launch week are going to come back to it for the Splatfest. They're going to add new modes, new maps in August. People are going to come back to it again. So it's all very deliberate. I know the content looks thin here at the start. They're doing it on purpose, and I salute them for it, because Splatoon is a game that I want to be able to play for the duration of this entire summer, if not beyond. I don't just want to play it for the first week or two and then not be able to find a match anymore because people have moved on to the next thing.
So I guess my argument to that, and I feel like I may not have been the most eloquent when saying this on Twitter, and I know I've expressed this to you. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts after this, Noah. I said that this Splatoon feels like an early access game, and I didn't mean that in like it feels rough or anything. I feel like the amount of content we're getting, I really feel like Nintendo, if they're doing what you're doing, and I absolutely agree that's what they're doing. They're doling out things week by week, maybe every couple of weeks, hoping to keep interest peaked in Splatoon. I don't think it should be a $60 game then up front to people. I know that'd be hard doing a retail game, but I really feel like this should have started off in the $40 range, and as things get added, you're bumping up the price to keep in mind the packaging, and that lets us, early backers the wrong word, but people that are like, you know what, I'm so pumped about Splatoon, I don't care if it's just one mode and 5 maps or whatever. And it'll obviously depend on how quickly Nintendo does everything, but that was kind of where my early access comments, and I definitely stick by those. I get what Nintendo's doing, but for me, it's just I want a little more variety. And then second, as someone who played Titanfall, I would argue that it had a lot of the issues that it had when it lost its fan base were similar to what Splatoon has. People said the lack of content. Now, they didn't dole it out week by week like Nintendo, and that may be where Nintendo gets the jump. But they did come back later and add stuff and get applauded for it, but by then it was too little too late at that point. And I get some concern that Nintendo may be there, but I do give Nintendo Titanfall added mechs and stuff, which was awesome, but Splatoon is much more unique online shooter experience where I think and you have the Nintendo fan base, the first party and everything, which is really cool. But yeah, I just really feel that this game should have started out at a lower price. I've talked about this with Mario Kart with you, Noah, in the past. It started off at a lower price, and then once all this content's added on, then you can demand that $60 price tag.
Like a special edition version of it that includes DLC or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of feel, I think I mentioned this on my Twitter account, that the game wasn't ready for release. And my initial instinct was, as much as I wanted to play it, and I've gotten it and I'm happy with it so far, I would have almost rather that the game was delayed until August when all of the features were ready and everything was ready to launch, because it just doesn't seem like it's completely baked. I was so surprised to hear that the game was only 10% complete at E3 last year, and that it's only been in development for a year. And it's just like, this is so not Nintendo. Nintendo's all about delaying stuff because, oh, we thought of a new gameplay concept, or oh, we want to add a single player mode, or whatever. It just really said to me, Nintendo has nothing to come out on Wii U. They've got enough to put something out there, so let's push it out at the end of May. And that said, between Best Buy's Gamers Club Unlocked promotion and a Best Buy certificate that I had, I literally did get the game for $40, and I felt great about it because I agree with you. I feel in its current form, in terms of what it has to offer, it is a $40 game. That's how I would price it as well. And I'm glad that those discounts are there. I still would have purchased it even if I hadn't the extra discount. But I'm really glad that I had it in this case because I felt that it was an appropriate price point for what's there. That said, like Lucas said, I am definitely eagerly looking forward to new content and new modes being added. But I probably, being a long-time Nintendo fanboy, would have been just fine with yet another game delay if everything had come out at the same time, or at least the matchmaking and the friend functionality was there, and they added the additional maps after that.
Yeah. The price argument that you bring up, Evan, is interesting because, we've seen all of Nintendo's experimentation with different free-to-play models on the eShop, and you almost wonder at what point will those experiments graduate and move up into the retail space.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like if Splatoon was a game that maybe came out next year or was a little bit further in the future, maybe it would have been released with a different kind of pricing structure. Maybe we'll see that for Splatoon 2 on Nintendo NX or whatever. Maybe it's a game that you can download and start playing for free, but you only have access to 4 different weapons and a couple of different maps. And
like Wii Sports, yeah.
You pay a little bit more for each upgrade to the weapon selection that you want to have access to, or upgrade to the map selection that you want to have access to. With what they've been doing with Pokemon Shuffle and different games like that, I'm sure these are conversations that are already being had around some roundtables in Kyoto. So yeah, you might just be gazing into the future a little bit, Evan.
Well, I love, don't get me wrong, I love this idea of Nintendo doling out content week after week. I mean, they're doing that with Pokemon Shuffle, they're doing that with Splatoon and everything. I just feel like if I'm going to pay, I feel like I'm paying full price up front, and I don't know, full price is obviously very subjective for people, incomes. It's really hard to argue what is a $40 and $60 game. But if I'm paying for a fully packaged game up front, I would want more content to be there with Splatoon. I wish it was more of, because I really feel like I felt the same way about the Wii U system. It was not ready for prime time when it launched, but I bought it and everything. That's a little different, but I feel like Splatoon is ready for prime time, the netcode and everything, but just the modes and maps aren't there. I wish I got some kind of discount, or I was coming in at a cheaper price, and the people that wait, I mean, this is something that happened with Minecraft and everything. The people that are waiting, you know what, this isn't a game that's going to go on sale. It's just going to keep increasing in value because Nintendo is increasing the content that's coming with this game and everything. But yeah, I'm hoping more modes come out. The new mode is cool. I'm glad there's a new mode, but I'm only level 6, and the ranking seems kind of slow so far. So I don't even get to enjoy that or whatever, but more modes will definitely be greater for that. I think an easy fix for the map thing is just get rid of that 2-map limit. I feel like that'd be an easy thing to do, because just even if you don't want to let people vote, just pulling from a bigger collection of maps to give it some variety would go a long ways. And it'll just be interesting to see how it all evolves over the coming weeks and months.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the map constraint is really about matchmaking and player availability. They're assuming, well, it's a brand new IP, we don't know how well it's going to sell, we want to guarantee games as much as possible, we don't want the player base split amongst 6 different maps, because inevitably there's going to be people who have one favorite. And so it kind of makes sense to me. One thought that I had, though, in my initial experience with it and just being caught up in all of the Splatoon hype and the marketing and really liking what I'm experiencing so far, shortcomings aside, what if, what do you guys both think if Splatoon had actually came out as a launch title for Wii U, potentially alongside Nintendo Land? Do you think the initial conversation and appeal of Wii U would have been changed or gone in a different direction if something this new and original had come out at the start of the Wii U's life cycle?
I think that would have been amazing. Like, Nintendo Land was positioned to be the thing that sold the Wii U, and it was nifty and great, and I still pull it out at parties, but it just didn't catch that mainstream audience like a Wii Sports did. Splatoon seems like it has that potential, and it would have been amazing if it had been there day one. Yeah, that's an interesting alternate timeline to consider.
Yeah.
I think Splatoon. I obviously am critical of it, but I think Splatoon is one of the most forward-thinking Nintendo titles in a long time. I think that it is just how the just basic element of the turf wars and everything and how it goes about it. Missing features aside, is just phenomenal. They are onto something great. I'm excited to see how they handle it and how they're just kind of moving into this brave new frontier for Nintendo. This just heavily online focused game and everything. It's just really cool, and to see. I mean, it's not only the maps and modes, what they do with rankings. Are they going to let like people re-rank the new gear, the new items, how they keep adding customization to everything? I mean, this is one of the huge first Nintendo first-party games that was built to evolve in real time in a lot of ways with the Splatfest. And I mean, we've seen DLC, yes, and we know that Smash Brothers is going to keep getting new characters, but this is something where, like I said, it is all online. I mean, there is the single player, but it's all about getting into those online matches and everything, and that just makes me smile. I'm so excited. It's a new franchise property and everything, and I think it's something we're going to be just talking about throughout the year. It is just a super exciting proposition. I'm glad to see it. Wii U has been some of the lowest lows for me with a Nintendo console, and Splatoon has really just hit the mark here. It's really fun.
That's great.
Yep, absolutely. I think that Splatoon is a game that we will be talking about for months and maybe even years to come, and hopefully most of that talk will be positive and not continued complaints about lack of voice chat.
Yeah, we'll see. I will keep my fingers crossed, Lucas, that they add it with the friend matchmaking and everything. That'd be fantastic. At the basic level, I don't agree with like the short matches and stuff, but I get what you're saying. It does shuffle up teams, but it would make getting into playing with friends right now so much easier, because I think you said you try to join a match with me. We'll just have to play that outside of the game sometime. Lucas and Noah, I'd love to play with you guys, get into matches, and do what we can and stuff, because it is a fun game to go make a mess of things and everything. So yeah, and for people saying, well, in Splatoon 2 this, Splatoon 2, this is a game, I want this to be League of Legends or Heroes of the, I just want there to be Splatoon, and Nintendo continues to grow this thing. I don't want to have to worry about a sequel. That's another thing that goes with it. So can't wait to see how this goes, and you got to be sure that not only in NF Magazine but on the NF Show we'll be talking about the updates. We'll be keeping you up to date about Splatoon. But that's what we think about the game. We would love to hear what you have to think about the game. You can email us at show@nfmagazine.com or leave a comment on our YouTube page. That's youtube.com/nfmagazine. And I'm going to give it over to Noah. And we have a lot of comments about what people thought of the global test fire coming from 2 weeks ago. So Noah, take it away.
Thank you very much, and thank you for all of you who have been patient waiting for the surprise week off. That was not the original plan. I apologize for that. It's just the way that things came together the last second. It's like, oh man, it's not going to happen. I don't have enough time. But while these may be a little bit older, they're still great pieces of commentary. And if any of you want to write in again, you can send your feedback to show@nfmagazine.com or leave us a comment below this video. Let's start out with the emails that have come in since our last episode. First up from Chris. It's been quite clear that Evan loves his voice chat. My question is to Evan. Did you know that Pokemon has voice chat? It seems like no one uses it. Also, remember how well Swap Note went over? Parents don't like taking responsibility for their kids' actions, and we're blaming Nintendo for their kids' actions on Swap Note. Do you think that that's why they're so afraid of voice chat? Remember, you could only exchange swap notes online via friends on your friend list, so people found a way around that. It seems to me as the classic example of why we can't have nice things, because people ruin them. Chris.
I didn't know Pokemon had voice chat. I'm not the biggest Pokemon fan, but I believe I did use... Did the DS game use voice chat? I feel like I used the voice chat for Pokemon Diamond with my friend Lucas, unless I'm misremembering. But I also used voice chat with Metroid Prime Hunters, which came out in, 2006, I think, on the DS? And that was NST, North American Development Arm, who is now stuck in making Mario vs. Donkey Kong over
Purgatory.
Yeah, Purgatory. So yes, I do love my voice chat. I have a group of friends, Lucas, another Lucas who I've played. Any game that had voice chat on Nintendo console, we'd always do that. And Noah, I'm getting this confused. Noah, I know that you've played with Lucas and stuff with those games too and everything. So yes, I do love my voice chat.
You know what game is really going to need voice chat, and I'll get on board with you complaining if it lacks it, is what we talked about earlier just briefly, is Project Treasure.
Yes.
Having to coordinate with your 3 friends going through dungeons, that game's going to need some voice chat.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I have another game, Monster Hunter Cross, hopefully adds voice chat to the game, since Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate didn't. You can write stuff in the lobbies and stuff, so there is communication that can be had, but when you're in the middle of those monster battles, it was a bummer. That's one thing that didn't carry over because you didn't have a Wii U version.
I long for just system chat.
Oh, goodness.
Allow you to just talk to your friends no matter whether you're playing a game together or not. I think that would just solve all problems. We wouldn't have to look at it on a case-by-case basis like we do now. Because gaming, for me, when I first started out gaming many, many years ago, and I was constantly moving around every 3 or 4 years, I was having to start from scratch and making friends and finding people who were even into video games. That was not nearly as prolific as it is today back then. And since then, that's really made me have an appreciation for the social aspect of video games. It's like when people go out to play bingo or go play bowling or even go watch a baseball game together, there's a social aspect of being there with your friends, and maybe you're not completely talking about whatever it is you're there to do, but you also want to share the companionship of your friends, and the system party chat would definitely facilitate that, and I would love for that to happen, but knowing Nintendo, it's not happening in this console cycle, but maybe the next one.
Maybe NX. There's all kinds of weird. There's talk of an Android-based operating system. They're working with DNA. You never know what Nintendo's going to do. I'm not overly optimistic, but I will not say never. I think system-wide chat could be a possibility. I mean, there's video chat on the Wii U with your friends. People love pointing out the swap note, but there's literally, you can video chat with anybody you add to your friend list. The functionality is not well implemented, but it is there. So
our next email is from Ryan B. I've been listening to you guys since the Nintendojo Heartcast days.
Aww.
And since then, thank you, that's amazing. And since then, it has been an awesome weekly ritual for me to hear your take on Nintendo news and games. Unfortunately, there are some weeks where I don't have as much time as I would like and only get to skip around to get the gist of what you thought. of the latest news stories. I'm writing today to request a similar system to how the show contents appeared on Nintendojo's site, with some time indicators for where you guys talk about what, even if it returns in a more simplistic way for the YouTube description. I know this would mean more work, so if I'm the only one pestering you about it, or if you deem it unnecessary, don't worry about it. Anyway, I look forward to hearing your pre-E3 shows soon. For now, I'm off to listen to Pachelbel's Ganon remix again. Right. So I'll take this one since I do the editing of the show. One of the easiest ways for me to do it would be to not add in the super awesome theme music that was provided us by Lucas, and then the time indicators for both would be the same, and when I figured it out, I could post it in both places. But I really do love that feature of the show, having it start out with a little theme song. So here's what I will posit to everyone out there. Is the theme music important enough to you to keep it in, or are there others of you out there who would appreciate a show contents timeline breakup definitely on nfmagazine.com, and maybe I could also just copy and paste it into the YouTube description once I edit the audio version. Let us know. I would like to know what your preference is, because otherwise then things are slightly off, and it wouldn't be an exact science, which is what I would like to do in being efficient in editing. But yeah. Thank you so much, Ryan, for listening to us that long, and we'll see what the votes say.
Well, I just want to add, for Noah's sake, one of the other harder things about this show is with the Heartcast, it was more segmented. Almost every episode had the same segments. We've broken it up into portions. We've really done more of a natural, free-flowing type thing usually with the NF show, which makes it more difficult to have it like actually broken up here and there. And that was something that was just easier with the Heartcast. It was audio only, and we'd literally sometimes just record a segment that was just that portion, kind of stop or start laughing or screwing up, or Noah would have one of his temper tantrums that he would just go on, and I'd be like,
"You're the tantrums." We've already established that. Lucas is triple confirmed at this episode.
Ryan, all of these features are coming to the NF show, but they won't be available until the August update. So.
Our next email comes from Travis R., who wrote, I attempted to do the Splatoon global test fire this weekend, so this was a couple weeks ago. I managed to play through the tutorial portion, then I got stuck waiting for an online match. I couldn't back out, so I reset my Wii U. I tried to get in a game multiple times, but kept getting the error message, lame. After multiple attempts at connecting, I threw in the towel about 15 minutes before the test fire was over. Travis.
That's a good point. The game right now, how it sets up is after a match, it says, do you want to play another match? Yes or no. If you click yes, there's no way to back out after that. You're kind of locked in. I'm guessing it's something to make matches get into a match sooner or whatever. I would really like if it was just kept throwing you into matches, and if you wanted to stop once you got to the lobby, you could hit the B button or whatever to back out. Maybe how they have the servers, that's not built, but I think that would be a good change user interface wise for people.
Yeah, it seems like some people did have a bad experience with some of the test fires and getting to connect. Having played the retail version now on the retail servers, I have only had connection problems maybe once or twice over hundreds of matches that I've played. Pretty much I look for a game and I'm instantly placed in a match. I can start playing right away. So yeah, if that was a concern, you had a bad experience with the test fire, don't let it turn you off from trying the game. Yeah, it's better now.
I've had zero issues. Just a second, Lucas there. So yeah.
I did have one game tonight that abruptly ended. I kept painting and painting. It was my first time in the skateboarding park, and it was so weird because I was running around and I was painting the walls, and I wasn't sure if I had found textures that couldn't take paint because it was only allowing me to paint the walls but not the floor. And I thought, is the floor covered in water? And this happened for about 30 seconds. And then I looked down at the map on the gamepad, and the other team had covered almost 2/3. It was like some kind of Splatoon nightmare. Like, what was going on was completely unreal because it's not how the game's supposed to work. The other team was blowing us out of the water after only 45 seconds. And then all of a sudden, I just got kicked out to the title screen. It was like, whoa, that was really abrupt. In the global test fire, I spent an hour on that loading screen looking for a match and bouncing back out, and then looking for a match and then bouncing back out, and playing that frickin' squid jump game for an hour. And that game is not made to be played for an hour. And now when I play the game, it's almost emotionally scarring to listen to that reggae loading music that happens in the pre-match because I know it so well. I'm just like, I hate this music, and I don't want to play this squid jump game ever again. Now, what was good is this was my one break during my packing freak out that happened during Memorial Day weekend. And what was fortunate is I had a buddy who was helping me pack, and after an hour, all of a sudden it started. And it's like, I'm sorry, I've got to play just a little bit. I've been waiting for this for weeks. I missed the previous test fires. I didn't start crying. I know it sounds like I was crying. And so I was able to play it.
It happened.
Finally. I've been dreaming about this moment since E3 2014. And watching the Treehouse presentation, and then watching the other, and then watching the videos over and over. I really was. And I was able to play for half an hour. And the remarkable thing is, in that half an hour of games, I would say 2/3 of all the games crashed within 1 minute to 2 minutes, but it was so much fun that I kept playing it, and I still wasn't deterred from getting the game because it's just really, really engaging at the get-go. So that was my experience. I'm sorry, Travis, that you weren't able to jump in there. I was very disappointed with Nintendo's complete radio silence while everything was completely crashed, and I was thinking, well, I've played Squid Jump for an hour, and now they're going to shut it off. Wait, it's actually playing, even though it's supposed to still be going. How long is this going to go for? It was just really bungled from a PR and communications perspective. But since I had the luxury of sticking around just a little bit longer, I was able to play it and really liked it. I'm sorry, Travis, that you had those issues. Like Lucas and Evan have said, it has been much more reliable, fortunately. Our next email comes from Nintendo Dad, who wrote, because of the online problems of Splatoon on Saturday and the extension of the time the demo was available, I was able to play the last 20 minutes. I don't like first or third-person shooters in general, but figured I had nothing to lose by trying it out. I must say, in those 20 minutes, the game made a very good impression on me. I still won't be buying it immediately, but I will be paying attention to the reviews and the general census. I'm definitely more open to it. I did observe while playing that the games move very quickly since there are only 3 minutes. Because they're so quick, I'm not sure voice chat is that big of an issue, Evan. I don't think I'd want someone trying to bark orders at me anyways, like Evan. But yes, the option to have it is always better than not having it, Nintendo Dad.
Yeah, there may be some people like Nintendo Dad that got to play a little bit of the test fire, are intrigued by the game, but haven't bought it yet. And it would be, entirely valid for those people to wait until August, wait until there's more maps and modes. If you're on the fence about it, you've got some of the, some of Evan's same opinions about it. I wish there was just a little bit more from the start. Then by all means, wait until there's more, and you can pick it up later, and maybe feel a little bit more justified in putting down the $60. Or get yourself a Best Buy game club membership between now and then.
Totally worth
cash
it.
Like Noah did.
Tell you what, $30 to get $12 off a $60 game repeatedly. That's so sweet. Anyways, let's get into the comments from I Like Bacon 62. I was very excited to see that Nintendo was doing the Splatoon Global Test Fire again. I was originally only going to play in the first round, but I had so much fun that I decided to wake up a couple hours early to participate in the second one. The roller was my favorite weapon. Yes, after my 2 sessions, I can honestly say that it was the most fun I have ever had in any online multiplayer game. I felt the controls were very spot on. I even loved the gyro controls and will be using them for sure. I'm so glad that I Like Bacon 62 brought this up in their comment, because it's something that we talked about, Evan and I, with Don, and I want to do a quick check here with Lucas and Evan. Are you using gyro controls or twin stick controls?
I'm using tilt controls.
Yay! I'm surprised they
Yeah.
don't have that option to say that in the game like they do Mario Kart.
That's true. I totally forgot that's one of those preset messages, and I normally spam that just because it's so cheesy.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that is a great
Yeah,
call.
I'm using the motion controls. I think that they work the best for me. There was an article that I took some issue with, uh, written recently. It appeared on Forbes.com, the video game
Mm-hmm.
section they have there. A guy that played some of the Splatoon pre-release said Splatoon is great if you immediately turn off the motion controls. Don't even try them; like they are horrible. And I think that
Oh no. I think
I
we have a
think
connection issue with Lucas. He just froze on us. But if I see him move again in his little portal, we'll, we'll switch the camera back to him. But while we're waiting for that, Evan, what's your stance on gyro controls?
I turned them off immediately.
What? You didn't even try?
No, I mean, you have to try in the little tutorial mode, and I was like, I wish I could stop using these. I think that the game is definitely tuned for motion controls because the twin stick, I had to turn the sensitivity all the way down. It's still a little jerky. I think it's a little overly sensitive, and I feel like that they just plan on people. I hope that they can work on the update there with that. But yeah, I'm definitely twin sticks. I didn't like the whole you have to use the right stick to turn left and right, but you're using the I wish there were Wii pointer controls. I'd like to try that out in the game. I'm guessing because they want you to have the map and fly to your teammates and everything. That's not possible with the online portion. But yeah, I'm twin stick all the way.
Lucas, are you back with us? You froze up a little bit earlier when you were talking about that article from Wall Street or from Forbes.
how far did I get before I froze up?
You got to the point where you said it's awesome if you immediately turn the tilt controls off.
Okay, yes, that was the claim being made on Forbes.com, and I disagree with that wholeheartedly. I think that the correct course of action is
Correct.
to play a few matches with the motion controls on, see what you think about it, get a feel for them, then turn them off, play a few matches with twin stick controls, and just see, from your own experience, which you like better, and whichever one you like better, move forward with that method of control. So don't take my word for it. Don't take Evan's word for it. Take your own experience's word for it about which way Splatoon controls better for you.
No, you have bemoaned the motion controls in the past every way, so
Yeah, I think I said in a previous episode the motion controls need to die. That's what I said because I played so many Wii games that had motion controls tacked in, and it was poorly implemented, and it didn't add anything to it, and I just got really frustrated having to yank the remote over and over to do a basic action when I would have been just fine with the button press. And so prior to playing the game, the test fire, and then also the actual game, I was vehemently opposed. And of course, I played through the tutorial a few times while I was waiting to get the test fire to work, because that's the only thing that happened. But that really stunk too, because it would forget that you'd played the tutorial, and it's like, play the tutorial, you're brand new to this game. And I'm thinking, I've played the tutorial a few times already. Maybe I should spend more time in this and appreciate that I'm doing something besides squid jump. But anyways, I was thinking, and I was actually talking to a friend about this today, and I'm going to do this on the video, sorry you can't see it, but when you're tilting the controls left and right and everything, it's the flashback to the negative stereotype of people who don't know how to play games, and they're holding a controller that has no motion control at all, and they're trying to steer the car, and they're leaning really hard to the right, and it's just like, you're such a noob, stop doing that. It doesn't work that way. And I started out and I tried it, and I actually watched a video that showed the difference. It showed it tilt versus dual stick, and like, look, it's so much more smoother, and it's less stiff if you do the motion control. I was like, it's still gonna suck. It actually ended up working pretty well with me. And in fact, I'm still using it. But As I started to not get first place every time in the last couple of games before the show, I thought, now it's time for me to try twin sticks to make sure if that assumption about tail controls being okay works. Because when I started really getting into the heat of the moment, I found myself wanting to just use one or the other, and I started doing the dreaded twist to try to turn, and that wasn't working. And I'm like, oh, right, I have to
I'm
use
being
the
shot.
stick. Why is there so much control here? And the other thing that really just blows my mind about this game is that Nintendo, infamous for having too many controller types since the Wii, and noteworthy for saying, you want to play Mario Kart with just the remote? You want to play Smash Bros. Just the remote? Fine. You want to play it with the analog and the remote? Go ahead. You want to play it with the Pro Controller? Go ahead. Do you want to play it with the gamepad? And this game, it's completely the opposite. It's like it's another nightmare scenario where Nintendo's completely out of touch, and it's like, oh, well, we don't want to make this work with all those other controllers, even though we could find a workaround for the map gimmick. And I just, now that they're trying to shoehorn two different control schemes together, and at first it's kind of working, now I don't know what to do. And I almost wish maybe it would just work in a Pro Controller. I don't know. It just boggles me, obviously. I can't get a clear thought out.
You're overwhelmed.
I am. I'm overwhelmed by the abundance of choice and the lack of choice.
There's no
world of
sweets.
Nintendo.
There's no winning with you.
Our final comment comes from Kisaki Project in reference to what the E3 plans announcement video. He wrote, I was surprised you guys didn't discuss the Reggie training montage video more. It was so funny. And then he's referring to Reggie being in the punch-out pink jumpsuit doing all this work to get in shape for the Nintendo World Championships.
The GameCube lifts, that was very clever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was so many great little visual gags. And it actually was. I think there was a couple reasons we didn't talk about it. First of all, we felt we might not have enough time, unlike this episode, which seems to just go on forever. And so we didn't include it that way. And also, on the other hand, I think we're kind of spoiled, and now we just kind of think about it. We just expect this stuff. Like with the Micro Direct, we had Bill Trinan running around with a horrible Munchkin voice and shrunk to a Chibi-Robo size running on a desk, and she's like, wow, Nintendo always does this, isn't it cool? And maybe we took it for granted.
Well, and Lucas brought up, he has a visual for a visual gag.
Oh, right. Good. Let's see it.
I just happen to have an original NES Power Pad right here.
Oh my gosh! You have everything on arm's
If you
reach
were a
there.
kid that had one of these in the 80s, you absolutely were rolling on the floor laughing at the fact that Reggie got down and started slapping these buttons with your hand.
Oh, yeah.
Because every single kid that played one of these games cheated in that way.
That was my favorite part. Like somebody comes in and catches him doing that, and he's like, "What?" And he just goes back to doing it. That was hilarious. I completely agree.
It was very well done. It gives me high hopes for the E3 digital media event. Hopefully it can follow in last year's footsteps.
Mm-hmm. That's all for our feedback. Thank you very much for letting me go through my mental dilemma earlier during that. Thank you, everybody who wrote in. Back to you, Evan.
Yeah, you'll have to figure out that controller identity crisis. At some point. We'll talk about it in the coming weeks, Noah. We'll get you sorted out. Yes, thank you all for writing in. It was great to go through your feedback. Remember, you can email us at show@nfmagazine.com, or you can also leave a comment on the NF Magazine YouTube website. I want to thank everyone for joining as well. Don't forget you can subscribe to us on iTunes as well as YouTube, and there's also a YouTube playlist with all of the NF shows, so you can listen to now 68 of them in a row. Since you can't voice chat, you might as well listen to our NF show. Had to get my dig in.
One more.
This whole episode. I want to thank everyone. I want to thank Noah for joining me, especially in the middle of moving across town, getting set up in a new place and everything. Mm-hmm. And obviously, Lucas, I want to thank you so much for joining us once again. It is always so much a pleasure to have you on the show.
Definitely.
Well, it's been an honor to be here, and as my final thought, I just wanted to say to you guys, Toon Link!
Link cartoon!
Nice. Bring it all back.
That is awesome. Much
I will.
appreciated.
Yes, and we talked a lot tonight about Twitter and expressing our thoughts on Splatoon and Nintendo in general. You can definitely follow me at Evan Campbell. You can follow Noah at This Is Noah. You can follow Lucas at two places. Most importantly, the NF Magazine official Twitter account is at Nintendo Force. And then correct me if I'm wrong, Lucas, your official Twitter account is at Lucas M. Thomas?
That is correct.
So definitely check there. We may let you know when we're jumping on Splatoon or whatever else. I guess it's just limited to friends, but we'll see how that evolves in the future and everything. Hopefully there's like Splatoon tournaments and stuff like that. So many cool things they can do. So yeah. In the meantime, we'll probably all three be kids and squids playing Splatoon. But we'll be back next week for our E3 2015 prediction show. So get ready for that. Write in your own predictions. Let us know what's going on. Go buy NF Magazine. Go buy Splatoon. Go enjoy the summer weather. And that's it for us here on the NF Show, episode 68, Turf Wars. Thanks for joining.
Bye-bye.
Bye.